Welcome to ZFG. I'm Krista, along with my sidekicks.
1, 2 colleagues are sitting next to you.
Okay.
Let's go.
Freddie and Carson, how are you guys?
We're great.
Yeah, man.
Oh, really great.
That's oh God. Anyway, let's just get right on into it. Since we didn't film last week, I don't know which camera to look at, and it's really.
You're supposed to look at us. It's supposed to be like a natural
like
conversation.
A conversation.
You might have had those once or twice when you were not getting AARP solicitations.
This is why I don't like to tell you anything. Anyway, let's get right into stuff that we want to talk about. Who saw the video, You Don't Mess with the Dayan?
Well, not only did we see it, but you know that we made it. We produced it.
I know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Once upon a time, in the global capital of property disputes, a young boy, the Dayan, was born into an Israeli family of aspiring entrepreneurs. Since birth, he was trained by his brothers and showed great potential as a salesman of used cars or even electronics. But he pined for a life where he could pursue his secret passion, giving haircuts to bondholders. So he took his mysteriously inherited fortune, turned his back on his contested homeland, which had recently arrested him for suspected tax evasion on that purported inheritance, and hoping to legally domicile in the land of opportunity, where any dream can be achieved if you work hard enough at hiding your financial schemes.
So you've never given any haircuts before?
I have done the fair value blowout. I have teased the disclosures. I twist the holdco structures, make it very curly. You know how it goes.
Okay, that sounds pretty basic.
No. It's silky smooth. I show you in my book. Is the same scheme pulled by king of haircuts, Donald Trump. He bought Atlantic City Casino Taj Mahal in 1990 for $1.2 billion. He goes public, transfers his own debt to bond and shareholders. They go to bankruptcy court 4 times, convince the bondholders to take less money rather than zero. See? Yeah, they get the haircuts. He pays himself millions. They lose $1.5 billion. Sneet. This is why he's so famous for his haircuts.
And you're doing the same thing, but with office buildings in Germany.
That's what I'm saying, yes. I aspire to be new Melecha of haircuts. In 2018, we shareholders transferred some office buildings, but as a loan. Or at least we claim we transferred them. Some actually in 2019, some maybe not at all. We recorded the loans at Vivian at 746 million euro. Said some building value is equity too, like we investing real money.
So you're raising more and more money and no one catches on.
We had one big whoopsie. I show you. Matanya Holdings Limited. That is a Cyprus company I control. Cyprus, baby! Who owns anything? In our Vivian records, that is company we had give Vivian 713 million euro loan. Bookkeepers forget to hide. And Matanya's accounts show it only gave 408 million euro.
Whoops.
Yes, big fucking whoops. Then asshole short seller come along and tell everybody. I want to make problem disappear, so we just put out another book, say, everything fine. It's like a big home over. It distract bondholders. Silky smooth.
You can't be making whoopsies if you're gonna pull off a hardcore scam. I just don't think you have the potential.
I know all about potential. I give you example. In the beginning, German properties. I include 2 properties weren't even buildings. They were development rights. I inflated their fair value by at least double. That's about all what they could be. potential developments. When we transfer them to Vivian, we say they were worth 85.6 million euro in 2018. Later we dispose them. But our 2019 and 2020 total disposals were for only 43 million euro, so maybe half of fair value at best.
Okay, making development rights hugely overvalued, that's kind of sexy. But what about the actual buildings? Are they even nice? Let's see. Potsdamer Straße in Berlin. Oh no, honey. These are old and gross. People work here? Ugh, you couldn't pay me to take a douche in this shithole.
It used to be youth center for many, many years, very popular. Then we kicked them out. It sat empty. Now it looks even worse. But we write up the value anyway.
Wow, neglecting older buildings. That is straight up elderly abuse.
On paper, we neglect nothing. The old and the hideous, they need love too. Best part, we bought for only 25 million euro in 2013. Then we use a little bit of fair value magic and some friends. We sell them, and a few years later, we buy them back again. Now we say he's worth 280 million euro. Lather, rinse, repeat.
How come nobody cares that you're paying rent to yourself?
Yes, asshole short seller again here. They find out rent 24. So we just say, oh, rent 24, only small tenant, and I don't own anymore. In real, rent 24 is maybe between 7 and 11% of German property rents. Yes, okay? But I say 2.5%. We won't go higher. Stop pushing me. That is final offer.
But how can you do that?
You want demonstration? Rent 24 lease empty space at a big development under construction called Fürst. We are about to buy it, but it was so empty, kind of looks like a problem. At the time, there is 20,000 usable square meter, maybe only half full, like Dead Sea. We get the Rent 24 to sign paper saying they lease 9,500 square meter, so the other half, this space is filled with the stroke of a pen. Silky smooth as Ben Gurion's head.
So you're just playing with percentages to basically hide that you're paying rent to yourself?
But I can get that percent number down if I want to, like for asshole short seller. First, I cut a little off the top. Was 9,500 square meter. Now just 6,800. Then I just count all the space, include all the incomplete area. The whole development is 108,000 square meter, maybe. Divide by such a big number. Then the rent 24 is just 6.3%, not 43%. See? We didn't even complete the rest of that 88,000 square meter the whole time we held it. But just a little disco here, a little disco there, and there you go.
So you just kind of tease the way you measure it?
Yes, we just tell bondholder, oh, is market standard measurement, but is really my standard. Snip, snip.
So no one can find any documents?
Some schmucks dug through Cyprus filings, and they just found out that way back in 2017, our controlling shareholders took 78.6% fair value gains on a set of properties. They untangle some of this nice styling.
So did you take a 78.6% fair value gain and then stick those properties into Vivian?
Probably. I never revealed my secrets, but wouldn't it make sense if those overvalued properties were contributed to Vivian to inflate the loans, so we can make our shareholder loan look big and bushy? But like I say, they only just find out in 2023.
But at least Vivian does still own these shitty properties, right?
Some of them, of course. Some we trade back and forth, with friends. We make special deal, but not always own them exactly how you might think of the word own. I tell you, ownership is a state of mind.
So let me get this straight. Vivian inflated the values of what it did own, sometimes with related parties, some that it later lied about, and in some cases didn't even own the property holding companies they said they owned when you were issuing the bonds?
Yes, I just want to give lots and lots of bondholders nice haircuts. I will do whatever it takes.
That's the most brazen, bold haircut plan I've ever heard of. You're hired.
You won't regret this. I will make the books silky smooth.
So we've been producing more video footage because people don't read.
Why are you looking at me? I read. I sign.
We're going to get to that later.
Everything.
Yeah.
And this one really fell into place nicely from a cultural relevance standpoint, and also the Dayan kind of rhymes with Zohan, which is a film from the, what was it, like mid-2000s?
Yeah, like 05 or so.
Yeah, which I gotta tell you, hasn't, from a political correctness standpoint, aged well. I think every sixth word is fagula, which I'm pretty sure you can't use anymore.
Yeah, but hang on.
Why not?
To be fair, like what comedy that's actually funny has aged well according to that standard? I mean, nothing is allowed to be funny anymore.
He makes a point.
Okay, so like to detour, but this is some real shit. So, okay, we started talking about this earlier today, but basically, I think every left of center to far left mainstream media outlet has hired a columnist to basically, spout out at least a regular column talking about what's racist. So pretty soon they have to start looking at things that are completely non-obviously racist in order to, because they want to keep their jobs. So CNN, and its columnist a few days ago published this piece saying that if you're not black and you tweet out like a meme that has a black person in it, that's the most quote, most insidious form of racism, and that it is, quote, digital blackface. So what the fuck has aged well in this environment? Like, if people are calling that shit out, I mean, anything that was like, aimed at an audience older than 6 years old that's intended to be funny has not aged well.
Should my phones get seized again, I hope they don't see all the things with the Nigerian dudes with the coffins, because that's very digitally banning.
Well, it's not criminalized yet. That's the good news.
Not yet.
No.
That's next.
No, but it's only like certain corners of Twitter that will blast you. Like, for example, Krista, you told us that you were going to show us your sign language on here.
I did.
But you were afraid of DefTwit coming after you for doing it poorly and signing the wrong way.
That is true.
So nobody has their sense of humor anymore.
No.
I mean, they do, but they're just, you're not technically, or you're not allowed to culturally, but it's still legal for the time being.
It's exhausting is what it is.
I know, dude.
I was addressing, I did an email and Yanni said, oh, you said, hey guys, and we were just talking about.
Was he fucking with you?
He might have been fucking with you.
Maybe. No, but he wasn't. We were just talking in general how you can't say, if there are women in the email, how it has to, you can't say.
But there aren't any in the front of office, are there? Joking.
Wow.
But, so first of all, I
always say, hey folks.
No.
Hey folks. Make sure y'all tie up your horses when you come through, folks.
I always say, hey folks. Have you ever noticed that?
No. It should be. So ever since there were people saying.
You're wrong.
So first of all, I don't ever believe in the you can't say. Because the moment I hear you can't say this anymore, like it becomes just to me the word that I'll use the most. So I deliberately go to hey guys or hi guys with every single email addressed to a group, especially when it's mixed genders.
I know, every morning when he sees me.
It's always guys.
See, for me, it depends
Hi,
which
guy.
people
Which I didn't necessarily do that before, but now that it's like, oh, you know, like don't address people, fuck you.
Well, for me, it depends who I'm speaking to at Muddy Waters, because there are two people in the team who have self-identified as retards. So if I'm only directing an email at them, I'm like, hey, retards. But
Nah, hang on. But there are 3 retards.
yeah, exactly.
You're in the club, bro.
Why is he in the club?
He's still in the club.
Oh, so yeah,
Why?
it turns out my
don't-
driver's license has
what
this.
he thought was his Texas driver's license.
Yeah,
It's his fucking learner's permit.
That's because you don't read.
listen.
I saw what you
I'm
got.
big.
It
I'm a
said
big.
permit
I'm
on
a
it.
big.
Didn't say
No, it didn't. It
license.
didn't say permit. I'm a
did.
big picture thinker here, Krista. Okay, it has this
That's the
little
problem.
letter B on it that means you can't drive without
what
someone
your
who's
problem
above the
is?
age
So-
of
so-
You're not into
21.
the details.
So as far as Texas is concerned, he's got all the rights of, you know, a 15-and-a-half-year-old.
I don't know what you're laughing about because this weekend you're taking me out driving. So joke's on you, dude. Anyways.
Yeah, but I
Are
think
you
I think you have to
as
hand
good
the
a
car
driver
back.
as me?
I think you have to hand the car
drive
back to her
fast?
before the sun goes down.
Sorry, do you drive fast? Krista, the last time I was in a car with
It's called
you,
unsafe.
no word of a lie, this is not a joke, we were passed by a cyclist.
And it was
He was
it
on a
wasn't
very
it
special
wasn't
bike.
it wasn't bumper to
Something-
bumper
it
traffic.
wasn't like a regular bike.
This
I've ever
was
seen.
in
Pittsburgh.
Sonoma County. Yeah, it was on West Dry Creek Road. There was no traffic.
Windy as hell.
Oh yeah, so bikes will definitely outperform cars on windy roads. How stupid
I
of
was
me!
Being,
I wouldn't mind.
You weren't like approaching a Tour
You
de
didn't
France
do
peloton or
by
any
the way,
shit like
He
that.
wasn't even here.
You
He
weren't in the
wasn't
car,
even
but I
in
gotta
the
tell
car.
you, this guy goes past and
I mean,
went,
you were
wow.
on the way to my house, so I heard about this 3 minutes
I
later.
know,
Like,
but
wow,
it was a special
he's
bike.
in a
I've
rush.
never seen that kind of bike
No, it was
before.
a special driver.
It was,
But now Freddie can be the special driver.
Yeah.
It was Lance Armstrong, he was going so fast. Anyways.
Pretty much.
Yeah, but post-doping, that's not an excuse. So anyway, 3 retards. And, well, for one of them,
And for
also...
the first time, I'm not one of them.
Hey, man.
I'm saying. I feel great in this
So we
group.
found that the guy who we hired who doesn't know how to ride a bike in his 20s also doesn't know how to whistle
Yep.
or blow a bubble with bubble gum.
Or do this.
Oh, he can't do that either?
I don't know. I just said it.
Oh, okay. Because for a long time he couldn't snap, but he finally learned that one.
Snapping is not easy.
I mean, for a how blank-year-old? Anyway, very, very, very smart guy.
Yeah.
Ridiculously smart.
But-
Let's just put that out there.
You know, I guess the lesson is, maybe the lesson is that we all have our
What is the
own,
lesson?
our own ways in which we are retarded. Although I can't really think of
our
mine.
own ways in which we learn.
Well, speaking of which, this
So
last last couple weeks,
Dude, Def Twit's coming for you.
you have surprised me. Honestly, you have really surprised me. So, probably the most impressive
Here it
thing
comes.
that I think I've learned about you is that you can sign. Like that is
I'm not
pretty
gonna start
fucking
No,
impressive.
but here's the thing. How do you know she can sign?
Like, why would I make it? Was I don't even know how that came up.
But how would we know?
I just don't think she's a convincing liar.
No, but maybe
I'm
she
not a
thinks
good-
she's signing, but she's
I'm not a
not.
good-
Oh,
No,
so wait, maybe. Oh my god, that would be fucking awesome. If a deaf kid told her that they were teaching Krista to sign, but actually they were teaching her nothing at all. So she's standing there doing this, being like, "Oh, I really
Guys,
suck at this." When
I
it
learned
turns
to
out
sign.
you learned nothing. Okay, what can you say in sign?
I'm not doing it now. I'm not gonna do it for the public.
Okay.
No, but just say out
No,
loud
I'm
what
not.
you want to sign.
What?
Well,
are you
some
saying?
people listen to this anyway, so
Right.
they couldn't see you sign regardless.
Like, what could
so
you
why
say?
don't,
Try to trick
so why
me,
don't you
buddy.
say out loud?
I'm
what-
not saying anything. Let's
Just-
continue
Could you have like a full conversation, or it's more of a Q&A session?
a Q&A.
Okay.
But how do
Can
you
we-
know? How do you know you're not just saying like filthy things?
I know I'm not, because
How?
I
I don't
had
know.
to learn it for this particular job. Can we please move on?
Okay.
And you know Latin.
We found that out a moment
We
ago.
found that out too, didn't
Yeah, not bad, eh?
we? No.
And none of this is on your CV.
No.
So it's interesting because, I mean, today is, as you're fond of pointing out, your work anniversary, your 7th anniversary of working here. And I only find this out now. So, like, Krista, I could have used you as a Latin interpreter so many times.
It's such an asshole.
I want to send you to Rome to interpret for
What the
me.
hell? God damn it. Well,
That would have been worth
guys,
some more bonus.
I know. Oh.
Sorry. So the real reason we didn't record last week was because we were both in such a good mood. Why were we in a good mood last week?
Did we make money?
We can't talk about that. Anthony won't let us talk about that.
Oh, you mean the moment of silence?
Kind of that, yeah.
Well, what are we talking about here?
Just the general Schadenfreude.
I'm so glad you said that word.
Okay.
Schadenfreude.
Yeah. Because you're so good at Latin,
Because I am very good at that.
explain what Schadenfreude means.
It's when you take the pleasure of somebody else's pain.
So what are the Latin roots there?
Well, Freud.
Schaden.
Let me take that apart. No, this is when I wish I was. Anyway, why were we talking about Schadenfreude? Or is it Schadenfreude?
Schadenfreude. Yeah. Schadenfreude
Schadenfreude does
occasionally
capture.
leads to Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
It's the only reason to do this. Because, well, it actually, I felt more sadness last week with Credit Saudi's implosion. No, here's
Okay.
why. Because this seems like we've had a regular recurring segment on this show.
That's true.
And I think it's probably the only regular segment that we've had on the show. We went semi-regular with like This Week in Tiger Global misery porn.
True.
We
But
did, definitely.
Yeah.
like they're less public than CS.
Yeah.
So basically we had this ongoing CS misery porn segment, and sadly I think we have to put that to rest because CS has been put to rest.
What was amazing about it was this has been the most obvious, like, eventual death ever. Like, they got the kind of, I would say they were like terminally diagnosed in about 2018. And then all of a sudden the world was like, oh shit, CS is in a really bad place. Like, the bank might have some major issues, despite it being very obvious to everyone that that's been the case for about at least 5 years. And so we went back and we kind of put down on paper, and we're going to have, I think, a little montage, hopefully, to remember the better times for CS. And that will have come in and will be silent as the nice music plays and the headlines over the last 5 years play. But what I do like, there are a few awesome little kickers with CS. The AT1 bonds getting zeroed, and then everyone being like, but fuck, the equity holders didn't get zeroed. Now, having read a little bit more, I actually think that's not as insane as it sounds.
No, it makes sense, especially with the provisions of these AT1s.
Yeah, but I like that they did it anyway. The former CEO, TM, coming out and kind of saying that it wasn't entirely his fault when much of the bad stuff happened on his watch. But there is a silver lining to all of this in the form of Michael Klein.
My favorite investment banker, your favorite investment banker, just a man whose value to the world knows no bounds. Michael Klein.
What's next for Michael Klein?
Well, let's look at what didn't happen for Michael Klein first.
All right. Well,
First Boston?
Well, let's look at first what did. So for those of you who don't know, Michael Klein was regarded as the consummate deal maker. Now, what that meant was this dude always had a pair of knee pads waiting for him in Riyadh because he would go there and basically just like shake the Saudis for cash constantly, or maybe shake his ass for the Saudis.
I think it was more shaking his ass, yeah.
Well, I don't know, mouth, ass, whatever. But the thing is, like, this dude was Mr., I'm embracing the Saudis and I'm helping them try to launder their horrific reputation, with the money consumers of the rest of the world. And anyway, so on the back of that business, when SPAC mania hit, this dude, through his firm Churchill Capital, well, I guess before we talk about Churchill Capital, I think his advisory firm is M. Klein and Associates. And so, apparently times were pretty tough, like right when COVID hit, because that dude, M. Klein, got a $900,000 PPP loan. I mean,
shitbag.
God forbid, a dude worth half a bill have to like actually dip into his own pocket to keep those, worthy employees who are, I'm sure doing something more noble than curing cancer employed. But anyway, he went beyond that, and tremendous comeback in 2020 when he did several SPACs, including Multiplan, which went from, I guess we published on Multiplan. That was the first activist short subject of this SPAC boom era, actually, was us on Multiplan.
The funny thing about it was we were looking at it prior to the SPAC deal being launched, because we were like, wow, this thing is really fucked up. I mean,
because it had public debt. So we were going to do a bond short on it.
I think 3 private equity firms had...
I think 5 or 6 PE consortia had basically, just corpse fucked it in a row.
And they were like, oh, dude, we found this idiot who will assign equity value to it. This is awesome.
They didn't think he's an idiot. They're just like, he's one of us. And right now there's a ready market, to just puke this out into the public. So I don't think they ever disrespected Michael Klein in that way by assuming he's not in on the game. And, they were probably a little pissed off that they didn't think of that first. But
yeah, that probably is disappointing for them. So takes this in public, goes from $10 to $1. So even amongst like SPAC garbage, that's still pretty decent market cap and absolute performance value destruction.
Yeah, because the initial valuation was like, around $5-6 billion, if I remember, or...
Yeah, maybe even more.
Yeah.
So that was obviously the real audition for the Credit Suisse First Boston spin out. Like, they wanted a guy that was going to make them look as competent as they've been making themselves look.
Well, he's been on the CS board, I think, since 2018?
I don't know if it's that. He's been on the board for a while, right? Obviously, the solution to CS's problems is to back in the investment bank into his like grubby little SPAC business, which he was going to pay himself, or like I think it was going to value his little SPAC business.
Right, he was selling that to. He was selling his advisory business. That took the $900,000 PPP loan. I think it was that same business. He was going to sell that for about $200 million.
Yep. To
CS or to the spin out, and then he was thinking that they could take this public. Talking about valuation of $5 billion. And true to his SPAC promoter form, like 20% of that was going to be left for himself and employees, which, himself.
Right.
So anyway, that was all lined up, and that was looking great until just the other weekend.
Last Sunday.
When his own pal, the guy at whatever it is, like Saudi...
The SNB, Saudi National Bank.
Saudi National Bank.
It's interesting, you had 2 SNBs involved in here,
Yeah.
Swiss National and Saudi National.
So, the guy makes this kind of off-the-cuff comment that ends up like tanking the whole of CS. He's probably the only Saudi national to lose $1 billion and actually be fired for it. Like, to my mind, I can't think of anyone else who's been fired for such a low level of incompetence in that seat.
I think saying he got fired is probably a bit of...
No,
probably
I think
when you get fired there, when you do get fired there, it's
they throw
probably...
you in a furnace.
What? Yeah.
I think there is literal fire involved.
Exactly. So anyway, but this blew up Michael Klein's plans for CS First Boston since UBS bought it, and so UBS has said that they're undoing this, and Klein is not going to get to sell his.
They're also questioning the valuation placed on the transaction. That's obvious to anyone who wasn't on the CS board.
Right, because he's still like entitled to advisory fees, I think of like $5 or $10 million or something like that.
Yeah.
For, advising on how to enrich himself with other people's money. Which, I mean, dude, the guy's a baller of a banker. I mean, there's a reason why this guy was so well regarded in investment banking.
I like how he recuses himself from certain parts of the discussion of the valuation of his firm, but probably not from the bit where he's like, well, I'm going to need $10 million if you guys are going to discuss this in the other room, like as a guarantee.
Well, not only that, but it's like, by the way, if, I know you're hoping to work for me afterward here at this firm, so just keep that in mind as you discuss amongst yourselves.
Yeah. So, I don't know, what do you think he comes back as? Do you think he does the kind of like...
You mean in like a mosquito? You mean like in reincarnation?
No, I mean, is he gonna like turn up as a Verizon reseller, like Omar Khan,
the
MQ Mobile,
working in the mall, push cart?
Yeah, is he gonna like merge his firm with the best parts of like Roth Capital and just pivot straight to shitcos? Like, where's this guy gonna turn up? Are we gonna have a Dick Fold? Like, hey, we're going to bring some Chinese companies public via reverse merger. Like, where does Michael Klein turn up in a few years?
I don't know, man. Maybe he turns up here.
I wouldn't be surprised.
As competition for the Vietnam product? Yeah, it could be.
I don't know. Like, if you decide you're not sticking around here much longer, Krista, maybe I could hire him for your job.
I don't think he would make a good...
Cocktail?
No.
Nah, probably can drink them well.
Probably can.
I was going to say, I don't think he would be a good Queen of Secretaries.
No, I don't think he would either.
I don't think so.
Anyway,
what's next? Talk to me. Anything good? Anything juicy?
We should touch on Silicon Valley Bank.
Silicon Valley Bank. Are you guys happy with it?
We are, but not for the reasons people think. Not because we made tons of money shorting it. Because we're not customers. But not for a lack of trying. I think it is really important to establish that, like many banks, we tried to become customers of Silicon Valley Bank, and they said,
let me also point out that the last failed bank we just discussed, Credit Suisse, turned us down for prime brokerage relationship in 2013. Because the Reputation Risk Committee had met and decided that reputationally it would be too risky to do business with us. So clearly they had their priorities straight.
We knew that CS was terminal when they started doing business with us. Because clearly they fired everyone in the reputational risk management function. They're like, fuck, we've got no one left.
No, we knew they were fucked because they obviously realized that there was no reputation left to put at risk.
Yeah. So way back when we'd both tried to get personal accounts with Silicon Valley Bank, and it's because we wanted to get loans against our stakes in the fund. And this is something that's like pretty typical, it turns out, for VC and private equity, where the underlying assets are totally illiquid, but
and highly subjective in their values.
Right. So, I did much pleading. I highlighted where I'd lost money, a small business I'd started, and
oh, that's funny. Okay, yeah. You don't have my follow-up.
So I got a resounding...
What's the date of your email exchange?
So mine's October 21st, 2019, with Jeff Thompson, who I'll bet's looking for a job. Hi, Freddie. I'm sorry for the long delay. I was not able to get the exception support necessary to move forward. This is for my dick thrusting nobody account. It's tough to get exceptions to our target market definition, which limits to entrepreneurs and venture capital private equity investors within the technology ecosystem. Best of luck with the fund. And apologies, I can't be more helpful. Thank you, Ryan Fix.
Okay, so
You have something that's
it's in addition to. So January of 2021, a friend of mine emailed Jacob Mosley at Silicon Valley Bank and introduced us and said, Jake, I'm CCing Carson Block here. Carson is buying a blank dollar-ish property that he'll want to refi. He's a very successful hedge fund manager, so non-standard income. I immediately thought of you guys to help. Can you connect him with someone on the private bank side? So then he comes back and says to this guy,
He comes back 5 days later?
I'm
just kidding.
No.
Just kidding.
All right. Happy New Year. Good to hear from you. Thank you for the connection. SVB's private bank is really very targeted on the innovation economy and specifically on VCP investors and tech life science entrepreneurs. So this may fall a little bit outside of our PB's remit. With that said, I've included my colleague, so-and-so, who's happy to connect with Carson to explore either how we can help and or share some thoughts about who may be better placed to help meet Carson's need. And then Carson, is very good to meet you. As mentioned, let me introduce you. I'd be happy to take a call with you and better understand how we might either help. Okay. So anyway, as Freddie, so as Freddie brought up, I guess when you were talking to them, how you had made an investment in this great company called Zer0es, that when it failed, I mean, Bloomberg did a great article on its failure because it turns out that you didn't need to buy their $2,000 machine. You could just punch holes in the concentrate package.
Sit on it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But hey, they spent $200 million developing the technology behind it.
And I mean, it was patented. It just, they couldn't escape the whole pen, the patents on that. So anyway, but the next day I replied and I decided to also cite the same set of facts. So I said, I think you can make a case that we're part of the innovation community. One of my partners lost money on Zer0es, and I once threw money at a crypto thing and actually got made whole. And I think our focus on enforcing accountability and transparency in the capital markets is quite innovative too, given that there seems to otherwise be none. All kidding aside, though, I'm happy to speak. So anyway, this led to an offer to introduce me to somebody at Wells Fargo. So anyway, So got to tell you, if you are a financial institution and you're listening to this, and we come to you and want to do business, all right, if you say no, bro, the fucking Grim Reaper is right over your shoulder. If you say yes,
you have no. What's that department called?
Then we know you're really fucked up. We know you're really desperate.
Desperado. No. Shit, man. You guys have...
So anyway, yeah, we're very happy with that. So, which I guess...
Oh, everything's making sense now. This is all making sense.
Good.
And it's too bad that, neither of these venerable institutions is around to redeem themselves the way McKinsey Consulting is here in Austin.
That's true. So what are McKinsey doing here in Austin?
Well, ironically, we rent its previous office here in Austin. That's now our office.
That's true.
And they moved out of it to get a bigger office, even though they apparently never used this one.
Yeah.
I have to say this, about McKinsey. I mean, all kidding aside, and when you think about greatness of companies, they sold us all our furniture for $4,000. It's pretty fucking awesome, man. Like, I can't complain. We either would have had a much less cool office or would have cost a lot more money. So either way, you know, every time I walk outside the office and see these, you know, fentanyl, opioid addicted, derelicts, like, you know, taking a shit and, you know, and then sleeping in it.
Besides that.
You know, I think, gee, McKinsey, you know, you really did a lot to cause this, I think, but we have a conference table that converts into a ping pong table.
Right.
And that was part of the $4,000. So, you know, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they don't have to do what they're doing. I already have a very warm spot for them in my heart as a result of that. But they're going above and beyond. And they
I really want to know what would have happened if you'd have gone back and be like, let's call it, I don't know, 3,850. Like, would they have spent the time going back and forward, or did you overpay?
Well, I have talked to people who've dealt with McKinsey as a potential LP, and I've heard that the negotiation process is extremely arduous and long. And so, I don't know.
I would like to stop you there. I actually befriended the office manager who used to be here, and she told me, you know, they were about to just give us the stuff for free. But we paid.
Fuck me.
That's true. I should have thought about like how much it would cost them to move the shit out.
No, because they looked into some like if you got like the junk people to come, and what is it called? And then
the 1-800
junk.
They had to pay them $1,200, and then I'm like, oh Jesus, let's just give it to them.
Dude, look how fucking upset he is now.
Sorry.
I know, man.
Sorry.
Fuck these guys. They got one over on me again.
Damn it.
They're nothing but
This is nothing.
They're nothing but fucking toxin. Fucks.
Did we almost get their printer? What happened? Like there was a big printer that we got.
No. It was a photocopier, but they rented it, so it was a leased photocopier. But I know
we were like, we made it big.
Yeah, I know. It's like, well, I finally have one of these huge fucking like photocopiers in the office of a company I own.
It's like, who cares about the photocopier?
I mean, when you own a business, you really have to look at, you know, certain things as milestones, and you know, like, well, you got to stop and smell the roses every now and then and say, look what I've accomplished. Like, I've got a dome speaker on the conference table. Like that was a lifelong ambition.
Does sign language.
And does Latin.
That does sign language in Latin, yeah. I mean, that's awesome, just knowing like you and I could go back to ancient Rome and you could still do your job for me. I just, you know, I couldn't do mine, but...
Who cares about you? Anyway.
Just imagining Chris through in ancient Rome.
Just strolling down the Via Appia and going to the Forum Romano.
I think I would be bored.
In Rome?
Just go to the... Just go watch them throw some Christians to the lions.
Yeah, I was thinking about what was that movie? That
was the first incarnation of AMC. Little mini theaters where they threw like Christians to
what film was
animals.
Elizabeth Taylor in? Through Rome?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Oh, you mean the TV series on HBO?
No, Elizabeth Taylor. She was in what was it with her husband Richard? What was famous? She made it famous.
Richard Burton.
Yeah, Richard Burton, right? But why was it? What was it? What was the movie? Forget it.
I don't know. I always think Gladiator.
Like
that was Cleopatra in Rome.
No.
Good job you polished up in your Latin.
But didn't Mark Antony bang her?
Okay.
Seriously.
Let's just bleep this all out.
Really?
I think so.
What?
I mean, at least that's what happened in the
about?
TV series Rome on HBO.
Okay, stop it.
Seriously.
All right. Let's continue.
Anyway, so we've covered a lot of good stuff.
Mushroom fungus?
No.
That's
We didn't even explain what McKinsey's doing to help Austin.
Yes,
but-
what are they doing? I assume we
I
don't
know
have
it. I don't
ample
know
access to opioids here.
So I... Yeah, well, because they just had South by Southwest here, right? So like the supply, you had all these dudes coming to South by Southwest to get, you know, to beg for money and buy.
twice when you've heard our doorbell ring. It's been tweakers.
Really?
Yeah.
And what have they been asking? Have they?
Like, and then I go downstairs.
I'm soliciting for UNICEF. What the fuck? I mean, yeah, I guess you can't, like, yeah. I mean,
That's why for
I
like
gotta
10
tell
minutes,
you can't look for rhyme or reason
To
there.
be honest, that kind of upsets me because every morning when I put my finger in that, I know the tweakers are putting other things in
Well,
that.
it's just- yeah. So.
Oh,
Can you watch
Jesus.
that on a daily? Can you
Oh
get
my God.
a swab thing? Yeah.
Oh my God, you're right.
Dude, because
Jesus
I
Christ.
did it
It's
for
fucking
7
gross.
years. Let's have someone
That's like the homeless glory hole.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I didn't think about that.
yeah, they think that's AI.
Oh, that's why I never touch that thing.
Well, how do you sign in with your fingerprint then?
I go to the back.
Oh, you know, they've never worked that out. There's no tweakers in the alleyway that stinks to high heaven. Oh, God.
That sounds so. Okay, let's.
They're both glory holes, dude. I'm just.
I knew you were gonna say that shit. Okay, well, are we done?
Especially because, you know, like, I think fentanyl takes a little bit of a toll on the functionality of the male genitalia. So that's probably just about the right size, that little thumbprint reader.
Oh, man. I'm going to wash my hands like every fucking day after I come in. I'm going to start using the card again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gross.
Worth it for the space it takes up in the wallet. Yeah, I hadn't thought of this before, but
I'm glad that's.
no, I'm glad we've had this
Talking about
this explorative journey together. It's, you know, it helps.
That's it. What's the last thing? Who wrote that?
No, hang on a second. So anyway, McKinsey is here.
Why is
They've
McKinsey?
offered to pro bono advise Austin. I guess there was a bond measure that passed in 2020 authorizing the city to pursue a light rail development. And anyway, so yeah,
Light rail.
Yeah, light rail. So that's kind of like a liberal thing. And Austin, unfortunately, also has a pretty...
Wait, light rail's a liberal thing?
I don't.
Yes.
As opposed to what? Trains?
No, as opposed to cars.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, just... It's pretty tough to, like, just all of a sudden lay down light rail here, right? But, of course, like many cities that had been governed
Like
by
San Francisco
by
has the same.
progressive governments until fairly recently, they created all of these codes. And so it's really fucking difficult. Like all these ordinances and building codes and land use codes, and they've got 12 different government agencies that apparently need to coordinate with each other to do this, but so far have not coordinated. And so the recently elected mayor, in this press release, he announced, folks, that's about to change, you know, like the lack of coordination. And I'm like, okay, you know, it sounds like this guy's about to go in there and start like, you know, knocking heads
think I
together.
met this dude.
And he goes, and he goes, so McKinsey and Company is going to be consulting pro bono on how to get through like the fucking red tape that has been created by this form of governance in the
why
first
would they
place.
do
No, I know exactly why. Probably the McKinsey Internal Hedge Fund has bought up all the land
Oh yes.
ahead of like exactly where the rail needs to go, and then they just send them in. They're like, "Hey, trade's taking too long, guys. Like these fucktards, like too many different like departments. You need to go mush this all into one department and build the track."
We've identified a
Yeah.
path that minimizes the amounts of
Non-McKinsey
code
owned land.
ordinances. And it happens to all be land we own, but you know, but pro bono, baby, like, you know, we'll knock those heads together for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I think
just,
that's the trade.
guys,
there.
if you stay till 5:01 and sign these papers, we might hire you.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, get that shit done. So anyway, yeah, that's the, you know,
McKinsey's got it going on.
That's my assumption on the trade there. It's pretty smart.
yeah, no, it's, I mean, look, we went from talking about great selfless men like Michael Klein to great selfless organizations like McKinsey.
Yeah.
So,
There we go.
So yeah. Well,
All right.
listen. Oh, you know what? I mean, I guess that's the other part, because I heard that they never used this office, and so they never
it
like
was
they
during
never
COVID. It was
they
like
never
a-
stuck their fucking fingers in the glory hole.
Damn
God,
it.
they they absolutely fucking bamboozled me.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one up you.
Oh.
All right.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, dude.
What? I'm asking you, what?
What do you mean what?
Read off the board.
I mean, you know, like...
That's stupid. And I don't even know what you're referring to, cheatard.
Cheatard.
Oh, cheatard's a pretty cool thing. He was actually really upset last week when he learned about cheatards.
So, like, I had the weekend before last, the weekend before we were supposed to film, and, you know, we wrote this on the board. I initially had this great weekend because, you know, Credit Suisse and all the Schadenfreude there.
Yeah,
and then
so that was 2 weeks ago.
I was over at Soren's place, and and he said something about a Ligard, Ligard. Like, the fuck's that? It's a cross between a lion, a liger, a lion, and a tiger. I'm like, nah, you're making this up. You're totally making this up. I Google it, it's true. And then there's also a tigon. See, it depends on which one is the male, which one's the female. And so then I'm asking, like, it totally reminded me of that South Park.
Wait, why does it depend whether it's a liger or a tigon, depending on whether it's like the male and the female?
If the tiger is the male one, it's like a tigon, or vice versa. Are you just
making this part
No,
up?
this is real. So anyway, they tend not to live very long because, like, they often have like genetic issues.
The real reason, because the Chinese emperor takes them, removes their penis, grinds it to dust, and assumes that snorting it will somehow improve his masculinity or virility. Yeah. That's the real reason.
So anyway, I was like, whoa, wow, man, you know, can like a tiger mate with a cheetah? And, you know, look that one up, and it turns out no. And then, like, Soren got his phone, and I asked about a cheetah. Like, I'm trying all the different permutations of big cat that I can think of. And I'd asked him about cheetah and leopard. And Soren's like, yeah, it can. Like, you know, really?
Were you both drunk at this point?
No, actually, I had not had anything. So Soren goes, yeah, it's called a cheatard. And I'm like, what? A fucking cheatard? And he's like, yeah. And so then, like, as we're watching, like, you know, watching whatever he had on, like, I think it was the, you know, March Madness. Every now and then he'd go, and so I came home, and, you know, like, I told my wife that I was, like, so happy. I'm like, dude, there's something called the cheatard. This is awesome. And they also, like, I think they don't live very long, like, you know, because they're fucked up. So yeah, I went all the way from, like, Saturday till Tuesday thinking that the cheatard was a real thing.
Fabulous.
And then when I came in here and was telling you guys about it, and you're like, no, and I'm like, no, it goes like, wah. But I looked it up, and I found out that I'd been fucked with. And
so
I was heartbroken that there's no such thing as a cheatard.
He's on a good run, so we've been chatting recently, and he's got this new thing. So in our business, you meet a lot of people who are pretty fucking out there, and they're either, like, interesting but the least commercial human beings you've ever met, not very interesting or very commercial, or totally just way out there in terms of what they actually think's going on.
Like a lot of conspiracy theorists.
Right, and, like, very non-grounded in reality. He's kind of coined a term for them. He's like, oh yeah, they've got brainworms.
That's right.
I just think it, like, so perfectly encapsulates my lack of ability to kind of place why it is that they think what they think at that given time. And I don't know if there is something that, like, exists or doesn't exist that's kind of loosely connected to brainworms, but it's such a brilliant way of describing how you feel when you get off those phone calls and you're like, yeah, I was just chatting with someone who's got, like, a really bad case of brainworms. And it doesn't describe them as being, like, a bad person. It's just like, nothing about this was particularly functional or moored or grounded to any reality I exist in.
No, you're right.
It's a great term.
For years, and this is real, like, for years, Yeah, often you'll take the first call with somebody. And like I always ask you, first thing I ask you after the conversation is, was he sane?
Yeah.
But this is a much better way of of understanding it as brainworms. Like that that there are multiple large parasites that eat through the brain tissue, destroying the synapses.
And it doesn't always make itself very obvious at the start of the conversation. Like, you're not going to get on the phone, they're going to be like heavy breathing and be like, what are you wearing? Like at certain points it can manifest. So one of my favorites was going back almost a decade. We had these people who bought this very credible and actually very interesting case. And it had to do with, it was a listed business, and it was a real business, but people had worked out a way to kind of effectively cheat and steal from the platform.
And the company was in on it, ultimately.
Yeah, the company basically had realized that a certain group of people were finding a way to kind of cheat, and instead of kicking them off the platform, they said, okay, we'll just effectively tax your winnings very heavily. And it was all pretty credible and interesting, and this person had pretty detailed information that checked out. And we were kind of at the point where we were discussing how the economics would work, and they were having a hard time getting from the point where they didn't...
Because it had a market cap of 1.3 billion US, which at the time was kind of a number. Yeah. I mean, that was before things went completely bonkers.
And they were having a hard time just understanding the difference between how much market cap, might be kind of lost based on the report, or how much...
Well, versus what you can make shorting it. And, as we also explained to him... So, of course, they thought that, us exposing would immediately send it to zero, which, is the first...
Right.
That's the first evidence of creatures in the brain.
And then the other part about it was... they felt that their negotiating leverage was, well, if we don't work with you, we'll just go to the FBI. And we said, well, look, that's fine if that's what you want to do, but you understand that, the company will just say, hey, a few bad apples, be dismissive. They're not going to be, if they just publish this on some random blog, they're not going to be taken as seriously. And
I think it was, we'll find guys with money who will short it, and then we'll go to the FBI.
Right.
Which is
And when we pointed out that the FBI typically doesn't, just get you at the front door and then they're like, okay, cool, we'll shut the whole thing down. His response to that was that they would have to take him seriously because he was going to chain himself
to the railing at their office.
At their office.
No way.
A little bit
he kept saying this. I mean, he's got a Northern English, Cockney accent.
Fabulous.
I'll go to America and chain myself to the railing.
So for me, it was a bit of a cross between the villain in Snatch, Bricktop, and that scene in the Ali G film where he chains himself to the John Nike Leisure Center on a hunger strike and he's eating the chicken nuggets. So it's kind of like Bricktop chained to the railings being like, I'll fucking feed him to the pigs, whatever. He definitely had a bad case of brainworms, that dude. Really severe case of brainworms.
I would like to sit on some of these calls.
And the thing, he reached out not too long ago on something different, and it was just bro. I mean, he got so brainwormy on us by the end. I mean, it was a good...
I feel like brainwormy almost sounds nice.
No.
No?
Would you like us to call you? Refer to you in that way, or...
Yeah, that would be nice. The things that you call me.
Things I call you.
Anyway, different episode. Go ahead.
Not really. I mean, it's your 7th anniversary. I thought you wanted to. I thought you wanted to let me know how much you appreciated the opportunity and all the wonderful things you've learned. All the wonderful things you've learned here. How much I've overpaid you. All these things.
Nope.
You know what you get though for your 7 year.
This is what he leaves me all the time, just doing business in China for Dummies or.
Who was the co-author on that?
This guy, Rob Collins.
Huh.
Yeah, somebody I knew from Chicago, actually. I got connected with him.
Are you friendly with him anymore? When was the last time?
It's been a few years since we've communicated, but I mean, we had a good relationship. So.
Interesting.
Have any friends?
Well, I mean, we effectively did some business together
Did he
by
really have an
co-opting.
MBA, or did he just stick that on there because he was like, "Fuck it, no one's going to
Does
check.
he really
It's
speak
China."
Latin? Exactly.
I don't say like
Oh, dude,
Esquire on there, do I?
Yes.
I
You
do.
do?
Yes.
Oh, that was so lame. So
Yes.
fucking lame.
I know.
Krista,
I just become a lawyer. Actually, I just
Actually,
quit being a
to
lawyer.
be fair, it was only 2 years ago he dropped it off his email footer.
To be fair, on his letter to me, it said Esquire. I was like, what
Did
a
it?
douche. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That's awesome.
No, that's bullshit.
100%. I was like,
Bullshit.
oh God.
Bullshit.
I should've probably known. It's not bullshit. Okay?
It's bullshit.
It's not bullshit.
I haven't gone by Esquire for well more than 7 years.
Okay.
Dude,
let's
these are
bet money.
actually
Let's bet a
pretty
nice.
awesome.
Okay, not
What's that?
money.
Common business blunders. This should have been a segment today.
This was actually good. This
Giving
is
away
a good
too
book.
much information. Partnering
Krista.
as a shortcut.
Yes.
Failing to instill your corporate culture. Not offering career development paths for employees. Well, we failed on that one here. She's still... Actually, you've been promoted from secretary to, what is it? Executive assistant?
To hostess?
First of
No.
all,
To,
Registering
I think
IP too
this-
late? Oh, dude, I don't know about that one.
what do you mean?
What's the point of registering IP in China? It's just teaching them how to do it.
For trademarks, for example. So here's the thing. So China is a first to file system. So what a lot of companies have fucked up, especially in the early part of the 2000s, is they would go to China looking for joint venture partners, and they'd meet with these potential JV partners, and they would tell them, oh, look, we've got the #1 brand in, producing these tools or in doing X, Y, Z. And the Chinese guys would be like, interesting. And then they would go and file in China the trademark. And so then when these dudes later, they're like, okay, we're going to set up our joint venture here. And they'd realize that they don't have the trademark. And these Chinese dudes that they'd pitched are the ones are basically like, yeah, that'll only cost you, $5 million to buy the rights to your trademark to use here in China from us. So that's what it was really referring to to trademarks as opposed to patents.
so how many books were sold?
Oh, very few. We got an advance from Wiley for this, and yeah, we never earned back our advance. It turns out that when you're...
You know what? I'm going to read this later, but I am keen to understand hygiene in China.
Okay, hang on, let me see. I mean, I had to pull a lot of
Seems
punches.
like golden.
Let me read this. Let me read
Ooh,
this.
wait.
Let me-
I just want to...
Okay.
Plan on using the bathroom at your hotel, your office, or the factory you visit. The public bathrooms in China really were meant to serve the masses. So take advantage of a clean bathroom whenever you can. This is awesome. Oh,
This is a little golden nugget
dude. I mean,
here.
you're fairly germophobic. I imagine you must have, for the first few weeks in China,
Sounds
been
like
like,
a fucking
"What
heart
the
attack."
fuck?"
Well, yes, but China, you've only known me since after China. And so China is what made me a germaphobe.
Okay.
That's
yeah,
the thing.
actually,
Like
you
I
did that.
wasn't a
So
germaphobe till
pre-China.
but then when I'm just like, oh my god, like the
Pre-China,
disgusting.
Pre-China, how are you?
Pre-China, he was putting his finger in a glory hole every morning to get into the office.
No. Pre-China, I was like, pre-China was like, oh, all these people worried about germs are total pussies. Like, but then when I got to China, I'm like, oh my god, the things that people do, and I mean, because I would see people take, I'd be in the bathroom, somebody comes out of the stall having just taken a big shit, and they just walk straight out the door without washing their hands. I'm like, oh my god. And that dude looks like, he's well educated. Oh, and the tales that I heard when I was working at the law firm, the tales I heard from the American women about the women's restroom.
Oh, actually, what about when we were in SF?
So-
The tales I hear.
No, we
hear
were
about.
in SF.
No.
Wait,
This,
hold on.
okay, hang on.
And
No.
do you
I'm
remember-
listen.
do you
You can't
remember-
listen. You can't
were
compete.
Japanese?
You can't compete. Okay. So, all right. So what was it like in? So this was at a Western law firm, one of the biggest law firms in the world. The Chinese people who worked there were the cream of the cream.
Yes.
I mean, the best educated, some of the brightest. And
It's a very well-known law
so
firm.
the women's restroom apparently was constantly, because they weren't big on tampons there. It's like
Stop.
And so it's constantly the fucking byproducts, like used sanitary napkins overflowing from the trash cans, lying on the floors of the stalls. I mean, and so the women, like from America who worked there, I mean, this was like and I get it, a fucking rant of theirs, just how disgusting, like nobody took care of this shit.
It's disgusting.
I don't know. Like there's this one time we were hanging out with this like Western guy and he had a Chinese girlfriend and he turned to my wife. He was like, "Oh, can you go with her to show her how to use a tampon?" My wife's like, "What?"
What?
Yeah, I mean,
Was he drunk?
that was way
That was
over
9
the
o'clock
line.
in the morning, and it was a business.
Yeah, he was Australian.
We were actually we were at a swimming pool, and so I think his girlfriend was like scared to get in the water, so that's why he's like, "Oh, this Western, this American woman will tell you how to." Anyway, like
Fabulous.
when I wrote that part about the bathrooms, okay, I wrote from the heart. I wrote from the heart. Like that shit's real. Okay. Take advantage of a clean bathroom in China, like wherever you can. Because like one of my first self-storage customers, he had a really dry sense of humor, and I remember talking to him one time, and he was like an amateur photographer, and so so it's just like I don't know. I don't know what caused him to say this, but he's like, "Yeah, I've been thinking about doing a coffee table book, Great Public Restrooms of China. I think it'd be a big seller." So yeah, I wasn't the only Westerner who did not have an appreciation.
So it's funny you say that. So when I was like backpacking around Southeast Asia, it did occur to me that like the Lonely Planet Guide covers a lot of stuff, but it didn't really do a great job if you're a Westerner of like where you could go and actually have like a half decent toilet. And it did occur to me that relative to a lot of things, that's actually a place of like great discomfort for Westerners when they're traveling. And I was like, I wonder if just a little like kind of Lonely Planet site, and this is obviously before we got Puber up and running.
Puber International.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder with Lyft, they've just taken on some new management if they might be more open to some new ideas, and that they could kind of bulk up, buy Puber, and then sell themselves. Because it's probably a little bit limited.
But Uber, I mean, the name works so much better. I mean, what would we call this? Shift?
With a little moustache on the seat. You lift it up.
I like Puber better.
Okay.
Yeah, Puber is meant to be.
Cool. Tackled some big shit this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a good one.
For those of you who are listening, Krista's signing us out.
Oh, can you say in Latin that there's no such thing as a cheatard?
I can. Here we go. No, I can't do it.
Can you sign that?
I can sign it.
Just do the cheetah sign.
No.
Go on, do the cheetah sign.
This.
That's cheetah?
Yeah.
That's dog, right?
Yeah. How did you know that one?
I just feel like that's kind of obviously dog.
I feel like you do that a lot.
That's crocodile? No?
I don't think so. Where did you learn that?
I thought that was, it's time for me to masturbate.
Okay. All right. Well, signing off.